Good evening. This is BelGeode, and we are back with some more Aerofly FS2. And tonight, we're going to take a look at a brand new helicopter that is now included for free as part of Aerofly FS2. Now, folks, you should know that we don't often hear from IPACS, the developers for Aerofly FS2, and usually when we don't hear from them in a while, it means they are up to something. And this is the end result right here. What you're looking at is the Eurocopter, the EC-135. And it has been carefully and lovingly handcrafted for this sim. So tonight we're going to take our first look and our first flight officially. I have actually had a couple of test flights with it, of this bird right here. So what can I tell you about this thing? Of course, the Eurocopter is created by Airbus. In its life, it started flying around 1994. I want to say February of 1994. It took its maiden flight, and at the time it had engines, turbo mecha engines. Since that time, it has been widely distributed around the world with many countries using it in many different aspects. It's most commonly seen being used by police departments such as Broward Sheriff's Officers, BSO in Fort Lauderdale, Florida, as well as even up here in Pittsburgh, the Life Flight uses these helicopters for their air ambulance, and you can find that is the case all around the world when it comes to this helicopter. So this is a really stable platform for that kind of use, and as you will see, it is an awesome helicopter to fly. So you're probably wondering where in the world we are. You'll notice there are some folks over there, and if you look really closely on that flagpole, you will see a flag of the state of Hawaii. To be precise, we are on the island of Kauai. Now, Kauai is one of the islands that is in the western part of the island chain. There's Kauai, and I want to say the smaller island just to the west of it is Niihau. I don't know. I'm not Hawaiian, so I have been known to butcher the language from time to time. You'll have to excuse me there. But both of these islands are significant because these are not created by IPACS. They're actually created by community members. Now, I forget the name of the person who actually created this, but as always, you should be seeing a pop-up right now at the bottom of your screen that will indicate that, as well as the link to where you can find and download this free scenery package. And let me make that perfectly clear. Both of these islands are included for free in this scenery package. Everything that you're seeing on this island, including those folks there, is a part of this package, and it's really neat. So we are here at Waimea Canyon. As you can see, we've got some beautiful red rocks and stunning green foliage all around us here. And we're going to be flying from Waimea Canyon. We're going to take a quick stop at a lookout point. I want to say it's called Calallen Lookout. But again, like I said, I've been known to butcher the language, so if that's wrong, that's wrong. That's all I can really say. But that's going to be our first stop, and then our second and final stop is going to be the town of Princeville. Princeville has an airport there, so we're actually going to be landing at that airport after we take a look at the town itself and some of the surrounding areas. But before we can get any of that done, we're going to need to get this bird started up. So let me first go outside and close our door and everything, and then that way we'll get started. Okay, so I just closed the back door, and let's go ahead and close this one here. I am using the mouse for this. I could use the Oculus touch controller. As you can see, there's a little glowing hand right down there. You can see me moving it around. However, it's kind of weird because I'm in a helicopter, and this is one of those helicopters where you fly from the right seat. My current VR setup at home, I've got a wall directly to the left of me. So if I were to try and reach something on the left side of the cockpit, I'm basically going to be hitting that wall. So we want to avoid that at all costs. So we're going to be using the mouse to actually flip all the switches and so on. The downside to that, unfortunately, the way this thing is recording video, you cannot see the mouse cursor. So I apologize for that. I will try to explain what it is that I'm doing when it comes to this startup. Speaking of which, let's go ahead and get that all started right now. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to activate our battery master switch, which I'm looking directly at right now. It's in the center of your screen. We're going to flip that to the on position. We're going to wait for everything to come up. The battery master switch is flanked by the generator switches, which are already in the norm position, so there's nothing we need to do there. We'll just wait for the external test in progress to complete on all of our various screens. Okay, looks like we are up to snuff. Alright, now we're going to go to the overhead panel, and the first thing we want to do is check our fire and warning switches as well as our caution and warning lights. So we'll flip both of these switches to the center, and then we're going to hold them down in order to trigger the alerts. So we'll start with this switch here. Okay, you can hear we've got the fire alerts. We'll let it go, and we'll work on the next switch to the left. Yep. Okay, everything is good to go there, so we can flip those switches back to their up position where they belong. And our next switch is going to be the caution and warning lights, so we'll hold that down. Make sure that everything lights up like a Christmas tree, which, yep, it certainly does look like that is in fact the case. Everything is lit up so we can let it go. Alright, so we're back to normal. Okay, next order of business is going to be our fuel pumps. So we want to test first and foremost the fuel transfer pumps, which are the two switches to the right here. So we're going to flip that one on, and that's the only thing about using the mouse in such a claustrophobic environment here. Sometimes you miss the switch, but both of those are on. We'll make sure that we've got a little bit of activity going on here, and it looks like it is active. Okay, so we'll go ahead and turn those back off. Get my mouse cursor back on the overhead. That is the only really downside, I guess, to using Aerofly FS2 is sometimes the mouse cursor does not behave itself properly and it won't actually get to the overhead. But it looks like we got it now. Now just to the left of those fuel transfer switches are these primer switches. These we are going to need to have in the down position, and that is for our engine start. So we'll leave those as is. Before we start the engine, of course, we're going to want to make sure we have our anti-collision lights on. So that is the third switch from the right. You can see I just flipped it there. We're pretty much ready for an engine start. Now to start this thing, it's actually pretty easy. So you're going to notice that we've got two large yellow switches, and in between those switches we have the FADEC switches. So we're going to want to have the FADEC switches both on first, and typically they will start with the right engine. So that is the one that we're going to turn on right now. Bear in mind, I don't know exactly which model of helicopter this is, which model of EC135 I should say. So I don't know if these have the turbomecha engines or the later Pratt & Whitney engines that are more commonly found these days. But suffice to say, we're going to start up right now. So we're going to flip our first yellow switch, the one to the right, to the center position, idle. And we're going to be watching for several things to happen. On the gauge to the far upper right, just below the master caution, is our RPM gauge. So we're going to wait for engine number 2 to get up over 50% RPM. We're also going to watch the gauge just below it, where we're watching the TOT, or the temperature. It should be roughly around 570 degrees Celsius. It shouldn't spike much higher than that. If it does, we have a problem. It does take a little while for everything to come up, so don't be too surprised if I get a little distracted and start looking all over the cockpit, but we will come back to it and make sure that everything is starting up the way that it should. It looks like we're getting there. You will also notice that our primary flight displays are currently off. That's because we have not yet turned on the avionics systems. However, we will handle that momentarily. Now we're supposed to press the select button on the right hand side of that leftmost display, but it doesn't look like that is functional right now. But it's not needed. It's actually doing what it's supposed to do, so we're good to go there. We've got a good start on engine 2, so let's flip the yellow switch to the middle position for engine 1. And we'll wait for that one to catch up to where engine 2 is. When both engines are fully started, they should be right around 74% RPM on that upper right gauge. So you can see engine 2 is already up there. We're just waiting for engine 1. And like I said, it is going to take a little while for us to get there, so while I'm waiting for that, I will go ahead and turn on our position lights, which are the two switches to the far right here. We'll turn on our strobe and our landing lights momentarily. We'll wait until we have everything else up and running. You can see the temperature on that center gauge there is right around 604. That should come back down to about 570 once we've got engine 1 up and running, which it looks like we do. There's our caution and warning, and that should extinguish itself momentarily. So there we go. Both engines have had a very good start. Alright, now that we've done that, we're going to go back to the overhead, and we're actually going to flip some stuff around. So, on that same fuel panel, we no longer need the primers, but we do need our transfer pumps. So, let's flip our transfer pumps on, and we'll turn our two primers off. And while we're at it, since we're up here, let's go ahead and get the avionics on. So, we're going to flip all of these switches here that you see me changing right now. There we go. All four of those are on, so we are pretty much good to go. And if we look at our primary flight displays, you'll see it's going through its external test in progress. Everything looks good. Our standby attitude indicator is uncaged. We are going to want to set that so that it's right on the horizon, so we'll do that really quick. Our altimeter is fine. We're currently at 1013 hectopascals, which is exactly where we want to be. That's otherwise known as 29.902 in inches of mercury. So it looks like we're good there. And our temperature has stabilized. Everything else is looking good. So now would be a great time for us to get our engines up to flight idle. To do that, we're going to flip those same yellow switches in the center to the uppermost position. We'll wait for everything to stabilize, and we're pretty much good to go. The other things that we need to do, we need to make sure our autopilot switch is on, as well as our auto trim. That is already on. We'll get our strobe lights on, and we'll also turn on our landing lights. I'll leave the landing lights on for the duration of this flight, even though it is daytime. The one thing that I like to do is I like to set up my nav source to GPS, even though we're not actually doing a GPS flight. It's just something that I'm more familiar with, so we'll set it up like that. And we do have our decision height. You'll notice at the bottom of both of those screens it says DH0100, that's 100 feet. I usually try to pull that up a little bit, so we'll set that to 200 feet this time around. There we go, and that'll give us an indicator that we are at our decision height and whether or not it's safe to land. Alright, pretty much everything is good to go. So we'll just check all of our settings here. We do need our radios up, so we'll get our nav on as well as our comm. We will not, of course, be using the radios because this is, after all, Aerofly FS2 and there is no ATC, so to speak. Let's check our overhead here. Yep, looks like we've got everything set up the way it should be. Now, I don't believe any of these circuit breakers work, so if you're the kind of person that likes to flip circuit breakers, I hate to disappoint you, you won't be able to do that in this helicopter, but to be honest with you, you really don't need it because everything else is pretty much modeled very well as we've come to expect from IPACS when it comes to helicopters. I dare say IPACS is quite possibly one of the best when it comes to simulating helicopter physics and, of course, all their various systems. Okay, but we're pretty much set to go, so we'll take a quick look at our folks out there. What I'll do is I'll give them a little bit of an air show. We'll take off and make a U-ey here. We'll fly in front of them, and then we will head on our way to our lookout point. Now, as far as what's needed in controls for flying this helicopter here, of course we've got a collective, we've got a cyclic. You'll notice I'm pulling up the collective right now. You can hear the engine RPM slowly increasing. When this thing gets light on the skids, it does have a tendency to turn to the left, so we will need some right pedal to compensate for that. And it's starting to get to that point right now. Go. We'll give it a little bit of right pedal, and we'll slowly but surely pull her up. One of the things that is modeled is ground effect, so we were on a little platform here, and you'll notice when we come off the platform we'll start dipping down a little bit. That's the effect of the air rushing to the ground. It's no longer a shorter distance like it was when we were on the platform, so it causes your helicopter to sink a little bit. And it's those little subtle things that add to the realism of this bird. Alright, so we are turned around. We're going to float up a little bit here, and it looks like we've got two families there, a mother, a father, and a daughter, and on the other side a mother, a father, and a son. So we'll kind of give them a little air show really quick, and then we'll head out. Like a yellow Lamborghini down there too. That's pretty cool. You don't see those every day. Remember, all of this is freeware that was created by the community, so literally every single thing that you're seeing on these islands was created by a fellow user of Aerofly FS2. And that's actually pretty cool. I love it. I love it. Alright, we're going to fly over the canyon here, so let's get some forward airspeed going. Dip the nose down a little bit here, and we'll increase our collective. We'll also want to increase altitude. You'll notice what appears to be either a radio or a cell phone tower directly across the gorge here. That's what we're aiming for. That's kind of my navigation waypoint, so to speak. So we'll gain a little bit more altitude here, and we'll bring her up to speed. Max cruise speed on this bird is about 137 knots, so we'll try to keep it somewhere close to that mark, but a little bit under that. And once we get some more altitude, we'll bring her up to about close to 5,000 feet. I will go ahead and engage our autopilot altitude hold, and that way we can take a better look at the canyon surrounding us here. Let's keep raising our altitude a little bit here. So far, so good. I am absolutely loving this helicopter. And it's amazing. Once you get everything started up, it is ridiculously easy to fly. I gotta say, this was an excellent choice by IPACS to add to this sim, because even if you're not like an avid helicopter flyer, you can actually get in this thing, figure it out, and fly it almost like a pro, pretty much. Alright, we are almost at 4,000 here, so let's increase our collective just a touch here to gain that last bit of altitude that we're looking for. And once we get to 4,000, I will go ahead and activate our altitude hold. Alright, right about there should be good, so altitude hold on. There we go, altitude hold is on. We'll let go of the cyclic, and it'll come back down to where it needs to. And now we can go to the outside view and check everything out. Alright, so here is the little radio tower that we were looking for, and that looks to be a cell phone tower down there. I want to say that might be related to weather. I could be wrong. Could be wrong. Maybe it is a cell phone tower. Either way, it looks pretty impressive. You can see some satellite dishes up ahead here. There is also a weather station down there. You'll notice all of those various radar domes and whatnot. There is a helipad there, but we will not be landing there today. We will instead be going to that little radome over there where our lookout point is. So we're going to need to hang a right here. Let me get our autopilot altitude hold off. There we go. And we're going to swing out to the right here. So yeah, like I said, this thing is pretty easy to fly. And even though we are going a little bit fast here, like I said, our max cruise speed should be around 137. We're just under that right now. I think what we'll do is we will overfly that, I'm assuming it's a radome or weather radar, something like that. To be honest with you folks, since I'm a huge Star Wars fan, and honestly I've been playing a lot of Star Wars Squadrons over the last week, seeing something like that reminds me of the shield generators on top of the Imperial class Star Destroyers. But since I don't see any Star Destroyers around, we're going to assume that is a weather radome. We're just going to go with that. Alright, let's make sure everything else is looking good. Our RPMs are in the green arc. This is good. Our speed is also within the green arc. Temperature is looking fine. We're a little high, about 710 Celsius, but that's fine. And everything else is basically just kosher. So just beyond that little weather station there, we should be seeing Calallen Lookout point. There is a helipad there that we're going to attempt to land on. You can't really see it so well here, but let's go back to the outside view and check it out. Okay, so we have eyes on our lookout point, but we're going to need to descend quite a bit to actually make it there. So what we'll do is we'll go over this gorge here. We're going to drop our collective a bit, so that way we'll start losing altitude. We'll also pitch the nose up just a touch, so that way we'll start losing airspeed. As always, with any helicopter, you want to be careful not to get into a vortex ring state, which is where your vertical speed is descending way too rapidly for your forward speed, or your downwash for that matter, to compensate for it. Pretty much it'll end really badly. And while it is easy to get out of vortex ring state, in particular using the Vouchard method, Claude Vouchard's method, you really don't want to get yourself into that kind of a situation in the first place. So always try to make sure that you've got some kind of forward airspeed, or at the very least you've got your collective up so that you're not descending too much. You'll notice right now we're descending at a rate of about 1,100 feet per minute. Usually 1,000 is the limit. You don't want to go any more than that, otherwise things could get really bad, especially if you are at a low forward airspeed. As you can see right now, we're just shy of about 50 knots. We're closing in on about 45 knots. We're going to bleed off a lot of that airspeed as we make this turn here to come into the lookout point. So that's when we're going to really start paying attention to our vertical airspeed. And I'm actually going to pull our collective up because I know that we're dropping airspeed rapidly here. You can see on the left side of the primary flight display. There we go. Okay, so now we're pointing in the right direction. All we need to do is maintain this forward airspeed and slowly but surely work our way over to the lookout point. And when you're flying a helicopter, of course, you need to be working all of the controls. So what I'm actually doing is gently nudging the pedals a little bit to the right. This is a Fenestron tail rotor, so the tail rotor itself is actually shrouded inside of a duct inside of the tail. It is pretty efficient, so if we just give it baby touches, it will actually turn the helicopter the way that we would need to have it. We're almost at the right level there, so we'll quickly go to the outside view as we make our way in. Okay, we are still a little high up, but honestly I would rather approach this from inland as opposed to over that gorge there. I just feel more comfortable that way. So right about now we're actually going to make our turn. So we'll pitch up, keep the collective up so that way we're not losing any altitude. We will lose airspeed of course, and I've got full right pedal. That way we'll come down to about 0 in our airspeed. You'll notice that it changes the RPM, the rotor RPM as well. And I apologize, that was a little bit sketchy there. This is definitely not an MD500, you can't just whip it around, but it is pretty stable. And I will say for a helicopter, as far as helicopters go, this is pretty forgiving. Alright, so we'll come over the cars here, and we need to lean a little bit to the left, otherwise we'll never make it to that H. We're at about 20 knots. Increase the collective, so that way we're not falling too rapidly. We don't want to pitch too high with the tail. Even though the tail rotor is well protected by the tail boom itself, I still hate doing tail strikes. Alright, right about there is where we want it. Might even push forward just a touch here. I think right about there is good, so we'll bring her in. There we go. Okay, so welcome to Calallen Lookout. You can see there's some people taking scenic pictures, and actually I think they've got the right idea. So we're going to go to the outside view really quick here. We're going to do the same thing. Alright, so just to remind you, this is actually community-made scenery, and I am really impressed with how they were able to pull this off. All the items that you're looking at there look really freaking cool, even to the point where they've got traditional tropical flowers that you would actually find on Hawaiian islands such as this. This is well done. And remember folks, this is free. That is just awesome. I have to say that even though Aerofly FS2 as a community tends to be a little bit smaller than a lot of the other sims, I do like the fact that you can create some pretty stunning scenery through it. Granted, there is a bit of a learning curve. Their system is different from, say, for example, X-Plane or the ESP platform, that being FSX P3D. And I guess we can now also include Microsoft Flight Simulator in that pedigree. But suffice to say, you see what the end result looks like, and it's actually pretty cool. I gotta say, it is really cool. Alright, we are just about ready to head to our second and final destination, which is Princeville, so we'll go ahead and pull up. Gotta remember to give it a little bit of right pedal once we get light on the skids here. And there we go. We'll get out of ground effect here. We'll say goodbye to our little tourists and their dog taking pictures. And we are gonna head this way. That's pretty cool. Alright, now, typical for Aerofly FS2, there are multiple views that you can have inside an aircraft such as this. Of course, I am in the pilot seat, but if I were to move from the pilot seat, you can see we've got Fred there, and Fred's currently holding things down as I act the part of the tourist, taking pictures of everything that I'm seeing around me. If we wanted to, we could even go to the back seat. So let me show you that really quick as soon as I am 100% positive that we're going to get over these trees here. Get a little bit of increase in altitude here. There we go. Okay, I am now confident that I can pull this off while flying at the same time. So let's go to the back seat. And here we are in the back seat, and this is the $1 million view right here. I gotta tell you folks, Hawaii has always been on my bucket list when it comes to places that I would love to visit. I was actually supposed to go there earlier this year for my good buddy Tristan, aka Nova Wing 24's wedding. However, well, we all know what happened this year in 2020. So the wedding unfortunately has been postponed until next year, and hopefully we won't have any viruses or anything like that that'll prevent us from actually coming to Hawaii, and I'll actually be able to check off another thing on my bucket list. So put some good thoughts out there for Mr. Nova Wing 24. We want this wedding to go off without a hitch. In fact, I might even showcase it on YouTube for you all, because that's pretty much something you'll never see on this channel. It's a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, so hey, might as well. As long as Mr. Nova Wing and his lovely bride-to-be are okay with it. Oh, there is one more view that I should show you, and that is this seat right here on the right-hand side. So you can see, we can take a quick look at that really dark and forbidding-looking valley there. Remember, this is all ortho photos, so the shadows are pretty much baked into the terrain. They are not a part of the atmospheric or lighting engine when it comes to this particular flight sim. Even though this flight sim does have shadows, it does not seem to reflect shadows on like trees and so on and so forth, or at least I haven't found a way to do that just yet. Alright, back to the pilot seat really quick. Okay, and it looks like I got back to the pilot seat just in time. Directly ahead you can see the shoreline as well as Princeville area. That is where we are headed. So as soon as we cross this ridge here, we are going to dip into the valley, and we're basically going to follow the coast on our way into Princeville. And from my understanding, the developer of this scenery does have a little surprise waiting for us at Princeville Airport. That is all I will say for now. Let's go back to the outside view really quick here. Okay, so as you can see, we just flew over the gorge here, and it is pretty awesome down there. Look at that. There's even a river there that leads to the coastline. That is exactly where we're going, but we're going to need to lose a lot of altitude right now. As you can see, we're just shy of 4,800 feet. So we're going to kind of auto-rotate down. And how we do that is basically pull the collective all the way back down. We will need to monitor our speed as well as the rotor RPM. We want to make sure that the rotor RPM is staying within the green arc. We don't want our speed to go beyond our maximum cruise speed, so we'll pitch the nose up or down as needs be. And you will notice on the PFD, the primary flight display, we're now descending at a rate of 2,000 feet per minute, so that's pretty sprightly. But we do have things well under control right now, so as long as I keep our attitude just like this, we should be able to bring her down right over that town just on a coastline there. And this is the kind of stuff that I'm talking about when I say how much I admire what IPACS has done with Aerofly FS2 in regards to helicopters. Now bear in mind, folks, you know me. I am not an airline flyer at all. It's extremely rare that you'll see me do something even remotely airline related on this channel. So I really can't judge how well they've done the airliners because it's just not my cup of tea. But when it comes to the GA and of course the fighter jets and warbirds, which I've shown you all of that before, you know that IPACS has done a really good job when it comes to modeling the flight physics. Some systems, of course, are still not modeled. But I have to say, for the 2 helicopters that are currently available in Aerofly FS2, they have gone above and beyond the call of duty. This is what I enjoy when I think about strapping into a helicopter and flying around to do like a scenic flight and so on. This is what it's all about right here, and I'm really, really glad to see that IPACS was able to knock it once again out of the park when it comes to their default helicopters for this sim. Bear in mind, these are not the only helicopters that are available. There is one other that I have yet to show you. It is a Lynx helicopter that is created by a community member. I will get to that at some point in time. I'm thinking for our next video, however, I'm probably going to show you more of this island as well as the other island. And we're probably going to end up using the FA-18 Hornet because I kind of want to show you some of the new avionics changes that they've added to that, which from my understanding are not exactly new. They've been out for a while, but since the PR department is, shall we say, a little bit lacking IPACS, I actually am not finding out a lot of this information until way after the fact. The only reason I was able to find out about this helicopter now is because of our good buddy Sergio from helisimmer.com sharing it with pretty much the entire world on social media. So IPACS, yeah, you might want to do something about your PR. I don't mind showing this stuff off, but I don't think that people should be initially hearing about wonderful stuff like this through my channel necessarily. But hey, it is what it is, and I'm glad that you allow me the opportunity to showcase your stuff because this is really good stuff here. So thank you. Thank you. I don't mean to complain too loudly to IPACS. They already know where their shortcomings are. But suffice to say, it is worth it in the end. When we actually get updates like this that include a fully fleshed out helicopter, yeah, I can't complain anymore. This is good. I am hard pressed to find something wrong with this vehicle. Alright, but enough of that. As we look at the coastline here and check this town out, you will notice that the developers also included sailboats. A word of note, you're not going to see it in this video, but more than likely in the next video when we fly the Hornet, I'm going to show you how the developer has actually made it so that some of the ship traffic in this island actually moves around on the water. The water, of course, is still not that impressive. It's basically just a picture of the water. It's a realistic picture, mind you, but it's still just a picture of the water. But the fact that they're now able to get boats moving on that quote-unquote water, I think is a major plus. We still need some land traffic. You'll notice there's no automobiles moving around. They're just kind of stuck to the ground there. But baby steps, will eventually get there. And actually, what is that? No way. Is that what I think that is? Ladies and gentlemen, I think there are cows on this island. Oh, I gotta check that out. I love cows. Let's go to the outside view as we make our way down. I want to see these cows closer here. enough, folks, those are cows. You know, it's the little things like this that mean the most to me. It might seem stupid to you watching this video, but it's cows, man. It's cows. I love cows. When my daughter was little, she used to call them moo cows. And that's always stuck with me, so even to this day, I still call them moo cows. But that is so cool that they added that stuff in there. I gotta say, there's probably more cows on this island than there are actual people modeled. It looks like somebody left their car there. I don't see any people by the car, so it looks like it might be an abandoned truck or something. But yeah, there's actually more cows here, which honestly I'm okay with, because cows are better for the environment than humans are anyway. So we're okay with that. We'll live with that. And look at this shoreline. Yeah, I know it's an orthophoto, which basically means it's just a photo of the shoreline slapped onto some mesh. But that is a really wicked looking shoreline there. That is the kind of beach that I am looking forward to actually spending some time on once I eventually make it to Hawaii. So, once again, throw some good thoughts out there for Mr. Novawing 24. We need to make it to Hawaii. I gotta see this in real life. This is awesome. I might actually go for a helicopter flight once I eventually make it there. I don't think I'll be flying though. I don't think I'm nearly confident enough to actually pull off something like that. Alright, speaking of which, let's concentrate on the flying again. We need to pull our collective down a little bit because we're gaining too much altitude. As you can see, all the little farmlands and so on. This is so cool. So yeah, I'm assuming this is all Princeville. Either way, it looks impressive. It looks really good. That's not bad for fellow Aerofly users or community members. And I would love to see more and more people take on projects, because remember, Aerofly FS2 only gives you a handful of areas that are fully fleshed out. The rest of the world is available, so you can pretty much create or recreate, as the case may be, your favorite real-life locations. I've always wanted to do Jamaica, but I don't know much about how to actually create scenery for this sim, so I've kind of shied away from it. But if somebody wants to take on that project, I'll be more than happy to support you and show it off. Now, I have heard that the developer is working on the rest of islands for the Hawaiian chain, so as soon as those become available, of course, we will be doing videos to showcase those islands as well. But for now, I am in love with Kauai. It is a really beautiful island. It's the kind of place that I could see myself living in real life. So yeah, that is just awesome. Alright, but we are almost to our destination here, so let me give us some more forward speed here. And if you look directly ahead, you will see what appears to be some power lines. There's a whole string of them there. We're basically going to follow those power lines, and when those power lines end, that should be Princeville Airport. So once again, we'll go back to the outside view, and when we come back in, we should be right around there and just about ready to begin our approach to the airport. Okay, so I hope you've been enjoying this little tour around Kauai. As you can see, we're just about at those power lines that I was telling you about earlier. So we're basically going to follow these power lines, and you should start seeing the runway directly up ahead. We're not that high up. We are at about 600 feet above ground level. Remember, our decision height is 200, so at that point in time we'll decide whether or not we're going to be safe enough to land. Personally, I don't anticipate any problems. I just hope I'm able to pull off the landing, because I'll be honest with you folks, I've probably flown this thing 3 test flights before recording this video here. And look! More moo cows! Yay! I don't know why you all put up with me. It's all about having fun, folks. It is all about having fun, and there can be no denying I have a lot of fun doing this kind of stuff. Alright, let's pull our collective down. Start rapidly losing some airspeed. I want to basically follow the runway over to the apron there, and then I'm going to show you the little surprise that the developer has in store for us at this airport. And that'll be where we're going to end this video today. I'm not going to do any shutdown sequence for this helicopter. I'm pretty sure you all can probably figure that out yourself. But I sincerely hope that you have enjoyed our little flight here. What's going on? Oh, our rotor RPM is getting a little too high. Okay, we can correct that. Actually, our rotor RPM is a little low. Let's increase the RPM there. Want to do this safely. Okay, so cut the collective a little bit. We'll make sure that our pitch is such that the rotor RPM stays within the wide green arc. And we're coming down rapidly here. We definitely don't want to get below 20 forward knots. Otherwise we will get into VRS. That's pretty bad. Okay, so 700 feet per minute descent, that's not bad. Need to shallow up a little bit here. And right about 25 knots, so once we get into ground effect, we can basically follow this runway to our destination. Alright, right there is about good, so we'll bring the collective up just a touch here. Make sure we are neither rising nor sinking. And we'll just gently cruise our way in. Now, to show you the surprise, I'm actually going to change our direction by giving it a little bit of right pedal. So we're basically going to scooch over to the right here. And I'm not even going to say anything. I'm just going to stare in the proper direction, and you tell me what you see right there. You see that, right? Yes, ladies and gentlemen, Magnum PI. I love it. It's those little touches that make all the difference for a scenery, and I am thankful that they included that there. That is pretty neat. The first time I saw that, I sat there and just busted up laughing. I had to stop. I just had to stop because that was nuts. Alright, this is our helipad here, so we'll see if we can bring her to a halt, and slowly but surely we'll set her down somewhere close to the H. I say it that way because you know me, I'm probably not going to get it exactly on the H. But we're going to at least give it the old college try here. And welcome folks to Princeville Airport. Nice little GA airport on the island of Kauai. It is not the main airport here. There is a much larger one that we'll see in the next video. But it is our final destination for today. So with that having been said, I sincerely hope you have enjoyed this video and this little look at Kauai. I would remind you that this is freeware scenery created by our community members. I don't remember the community member's name, but the link will be popping up right now on your screen. And in the video description, you can click on that link and you can download the scenery to add it to your Aerofly FS2. And also to remind you, the helicopter that we've been flying is now considered default. It is now included for free with your Aerofly FS2 installation. So just make sure that you update to the current version of Aerofly FS2 and you too can fly around in this helicopter. There are a number of different liveries for you to pick from, and I'm pretty sure in short order the community will start making custom liveries for this helicopter. Alright, that is all I brought for show and tell today, so thank you as always for watching. This has been BelGeode. I have been flying in Aerofly FS2, and if you enjoy what you've seen, please feel free to give me a like. Don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already done so, and that way you'll get notifications as to the next time that I put another Aerofly video up, which, as I have promised, will be the FA-18 Hornet, showing off the other portions of this island. Until then, folks, I hope you all have an excellent evening or morning or day or wherever you are right now in the world, and thank you again for watching. And I will catch you all really soon. Ciao!